Okay, today we're diving into the story of one of football's most electrifying and, let's be honest, most controversial superstars, Neymar Jr. He's a guy with, truly once-in-a-generation talent. But his whole career kind of leaves you asking one big question. What if? That is a heavy quote, right? Tragic seems like a huge word for a guy who's a multimillionaire sports icon. But you know what? It really gets to the heart of this feeling of unfulfilled promise that's just kind of followed him everywhere. And that's the real mystery we're unpacking here. How on earth does that happen? How do you go from being called the next Pelé on the streets of Brazil to having this massive question mark over your career? This is the story of the prince who was promised a crown, but never quite became king. So, let's start at the very beginning. It all kicks off in Brazil, a country that basically demands a new footballing genius every single generation. And let me tell you, Neymar was absolutely destined to be that guy. The expectations on his shoulders were just immense, right from day one. And his rise, well, meteoric doesn't even cover it. He joined Santos, that's Pelé's old club by the way, at just 11 years old. By 17, he's a pro, and then in 2011, he scores this absolutely ridiculous solo goal that wins him the Puskás Award. It was like he was announcing to the entire planet, I'm here. The great hope of Brazil had finally, officially arrived.
All right, so then came the move that everyone knew was coming. In 2013, he makes the leap to Europe, joining FC Barcelona. And this is where he would become part of one of the most, and I mean the most, deadly attacking trios the game has ever seen.
We are talking, of course, about MSN. Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. Good luck stopping that. These three were just titans of the game who came together and created something that was honestly almost mythical. Their connection on the field, it felt telepathic. And the numbers were just staggering. Look at this. In their first full season, they banged in an incredible 122 goals. And they won the treble. That's the big one. You win your domestic league, your domestic cup, and the Champions League, all in the same year. It was pure footballing perfection, and Neymar was right at the center of it all. But then came the moment that changed absolutely everything. It was called La Remontada, the comeback. Barcelona were down 4-0 to PSG. They needed a literal miracle. And Neymar delivered it. He was completely unstoppable. He scores 2 goals, late, assists the game winner. He was the hero. But the next day, the picture that was plastered on every newspaper, every website around the world, it wasn't him. It was Messi, held up like a king by the crowd. And that sent a very, very clear message. No matter what Neymar did, this was still Messi's kingdom. In that moment, that was the trigger. Neymar decided, okay, if I'm ever going to be the world's best, I have to leave. He took a massive, massive gamble, one that completely shattered the football world. Paris Saint-Germain came in and paid his release clause, 222 million euros. Just let that number sink in. It's a world record that still hasn't been broken. And with a price tag like that comes a level of pressure that, most of us can't even begin to imagine. The thinking behind the move was pretty clear, right? This was about way more than just soccer. This was his quest to prove he could be the main man, to lead his own team to the promised land. And of course, to finally win the Ballon d'Or, that big golden ball they give to the best player in the world. But the dream of Paris, it very quickly turned into a paradox. His time there just became this really frustrating cycle of absolute breathtaking brilliance, immediately followed by these crushing, crippling setbacks. And this chart right here really tells the story. Injuries became the core problem. He missed almost half, 44% of the matches he could have played for PSG. And let's be real, you just can't be the undisputed king when you're not even on the field. And the issues weren't just physical. Oh no, there were public ego clashes, like arguing with teammates over who should take a penalty. Then you had the 2018 World Cup, where his on-field theatrics became a global punchline. And the injuries always seemed to happen at the worst possible time, right before huge Champions League games. This, crucially, opened the door for a young Kylian Mbappé to step up and basically become the face of the club. And in the end, that one ultimate goal, the whole reason for the move, the Champions League, he never won it. So all of that brings us to the final chapter of this story, and really the biggest question of them all. What is his legacy? What are we supposed to make of all this? At age 31,
An age where most superstars are still chasing those top trophies, Neymar left European football altogether for Saudi Arabia. And for a lot of people, that move signaled the choice. He chose financial security over chasing the highest levels of glory. And in doing so, he pretty much closed the book on his time at the very, very top of the sport.
And so this is the debate, right? This is the whole thing in a nutshell. On one side, you have Neymar the entertainer, one of the most skillful, joyful players we've ever seen. But on the other side, you have Neymar the uncrowned king, a talent defined by those critical injuries, by questionable career moves, and by never quite winning the biggest individual or team prizes, like the Ballon d'Or or the World Cup. So, what's the final verdict? A football icon or an unfulfilled king? Was he a flawed genius who was just incredibly unlucky? Was he a victim of his own choices? Or maybe, just maybe, he was a cultural icon who just wanted to play by his own rules? He was the prince who was promised everything. But maybe, in the end, he wanted something else entirely. I don't think we have the final answer yet, but the debate, oh, that's going to rage on forever.